Making headlines for this week of December 22nd. Disclosure disclosed. A sudden mainstream media interest in the subject of our galactic families. Cabal crusher. Executive order by Trump takes aim at cabal abusers worldwide. Removing Rothschilds. South Africa takes steps to reclaim its national bank from private interests. And disclosing disclosure. World First Global Survey reveals how ready humanity may be to meet our galactic families.
With news around, upon, within, and beyond our planet, the program making disclosure official. This is Cosmic Vision News. Here is Jeffrey West.
Greetings and blessings to all. What an interesting week this has been, with all the attention on the growing revelations linked to sexual abuse, pedophilia, and even the mention of satanic rituals involving children, along with numerous stories exposing the Clintons and other members of the global cabal, along with the draining of the swamp that U.S. President Trump promised. We are seeing another topic beginning to sneak into the mainstream media this week. It's a topic that perhaps many have been waiting for, but it's also a topic that requires cautious observance as well. The topic is linked to a very specific story this week that has been made available to the media and to the world. Let's go back a few days first to December 13th. From the White House government website, the following was posted. On the National Space Council's recommendation, President Donald J. Trump signed a directive, December the 11th, that puts human exploration back at the core of America's space program. This directive was entitled Space Policy Directive 1. At the signing, Trump was quoted as saying that the directive I'm signing today will refocus America's space program on human exploration and discovery, the president said. It marks an important step in returning American astronauts to the moon for the first time since 1972 for long-term exploration and use. 3 days later, a bigger story begins to make the headlines. The New York Times had acquired footage released by the Department of Defense showing a military engagement with a UAP, or Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. Stephen Bassett, founder and director of the Paradigm Research Group and the only UFO lobbyist registered in Washington, posted the following to his Facebook page on December the 20th. Right now, across the United States, any number of former military, agency, and political professionals are contemplating whether to come forward in light of the first release of government-obtained gun camera footage of a UAP intercept. The recent action by the Pentagon is perhaps by design not containable. The New York Times article goes into greater detail, but reports how Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate were on a routine training mission 100 miles out into the Pacific when they were suddenly given a real-world scenario to investigate. The coordinates they were directed to resulted in their finding a UAP capable of maneuvers that were not generally known to be possible in aircraft up to that point. They tracked the object until it very rapidly disappeared. Commander Fravor was quoted in the article as saying at the time that it accelerated like nothing I've ever seen. He admitted later that he was pretty weirded out by the experience. He was also quoted as saying to a fellow pilot after the incident that, "I have no idea what I saw. It had no plumes, no wings or rotors, and outran our F-18s. I want to fly one." Recently interviewed by Tucker Carlson of Fox News, Commander Fravor shared what he experienced.
UFOs have been the stuff of conspiracy theorists for decades, often mocked for talking about it, but maybe they shouldn't be mocked. Commander David Fravor spent 18 years as a naval aviator, a pilot. In 2004, he had an unforgettable encounter with an aircraft he said was defying the laws of physics. Tell us what you saw.
Well, we had launched on a routine training mission. When we joined up, we were told that the event was going to be canceled and that we have real-world tasking, and we were sent out to the west. Now, take in mind that this has taken place about 100 miles southwest of San Diego, between San Diego and Ensenada, Mexico.
Yep.
On a clear, perfect day, blue waters. We get out to the spot where they tell us it's at. We start looking around, and both airplanes see disturbance in the water and a white 40-foot long tic-tac shaped object just hovering above the water, going forward, back, left, right. There's no rotor wash, there's no wings, nothing. So as we drive around in a clockwise flow, we get to about the 9 o'clock position, and I said, well, I'm going to go down and check it out, and the other jet is going to stay high. So as we go down, and when we get to the 12 o'clock position, it starts to mirror us. So it's in a clockwise flow, and it's on the opposite side of the circle from us. And we continue this. It's in a climb. We're in a descent. We're getting a great look at it. This whole thing takes about probably up to 5 minutes from the time we show up. I get over to the 8 o'clock position. It's at about the 2 o'clock position, and I decide I'm going to go and see what it is, and it's about 2,000 feet below me. And I cut across the circle, and as I get within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerates to the south in about 2 seconds and disappears.
On December 17th, the BBC reported the following. The Pentagon has been running a secret multi-million-dollar program to investigate unidentified flying objects and specifically identifies the U.S. media as filing this report. Only a small number of officials were aware of the program, which began in 2007 and was reportedly closed in 2012. It was almost 1 year earlier, on January 18th, when the BBC reported that the CIA had released 13 million pages of declassified documents online, something that was also reported by CVN at the time. The article adds that in November of 2017, the CIA announced it would publish the material, and the entire declassified CREST archive is now available on the CIA Library website. That link is in the show transcript. The mainstream media has been in a bit of a surprise lately, reporting on things that they have not historically reported on previously. This may lend some credibility to the reports that the CIA's formerly secret project, known as Operation Mockingbird, to control the media and journalists, has in fact been shut down. CNN was one of the surprises, also covering the video footage released by the Department of Defense. Writer Eric Levinson went a bit further, however, going into details about Project Blue Book, the government program that investigated UAPs from 1948 to 1969. As well, Levinson also covered Roswell, Area 51, UFOs and nuclear weapons, and the Phoenix Lights incident. Although Levinson does not exactly report on these items in the most positive way, the information has at least been put forth to the public. CNN also aired an interview with Luis Elizondo, a former Pentagon official who ran the secretive UFO program until last November. Here is a part of what Elizondo shared.
The purpose of the program, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, was really designed to do just that. From a national security perspective, identify those things that we see, whether we see them electro-optically, we see them with radar, we see them as eyewitness reports, through a myriad of different ways and avenues that we receive the information, and try to ascertain and determine if that information is a potential threat to national security, in a nutshell.
So what did you find?
Well, we found a lot. I think it's probably been a little bit mischaracterized in some of the social media you see and what people put out, because a lot of times when we don't have a lot of information, we tend to fill in those gaps with what we think is logical. And there's still, by the way, a lot we really don't know. I think what's important is that we have identified some very, very interesting anomalous type of aircraft. Let's call them aircraft. Things that don't have any obvious flight surfaces, any obvious forms of propulsion, and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability beyond, I would submit, the healthy G-forces of a human or anything biological, hypersonic velocities, low observability, positive lift, again, seemingly in defying the laws of aerodynamics.
Do you believe, when you get that Navy pilot saying what he said, do you think that was, a UFO? To obviously, I don't have any other word to use, or that, or something else?
Sure, that's a great question. Keeping in mind, it's not just the pilot's testimony on an observation. It is actual electro-optical data and radar returns. It's also people like radar operators and air traffic controllers. So I think the discussion should be maybe a little bit broader than that. I think people are focusing just on 2 videos coming from a set of F-18s when really it's a lot more than that. Recently,
I guess it was in October, astronomers spotted what they say could be the first interstellar asteroid. You see it there, kind of that strange shape from beyond the solar system. What do you see when you look at that?
You know, Ms. Burnett, I have to admit to you, when I ran this program, I was fundamentally looking at, my colleagues looking at 2 things.
Yeah.
What is it and how does it work? We have deliberately stayed away from going down the rabbit hole of who's behind the wheel and what are their intentions.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have a lot of feelings towards that and are very emotional about that. And what I wanted to do is to allow the data to speak for itself and then use that data to inform leadership about the potential threat that these type of technologies pose to national security, especially over any type of controlled airspace that we might have. So I'm not trying to be evasive in any way or vague with your answer, but
yeah. Well,
I think there's a lot of possibilities.
Look, and I know you think it's important. I know you think that the government didn't take the threat seriously enough. So let me just ask you point blank the question. Do you believe that life from somewhere else, while you ran this program, came here, visited, observed?
I will tell you unequivocally that through the observation, scientific methodologies that were applied to look at this phenomena, that these aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of.
So I know you're being clear, but I mean, the answer is yes.
Personally, I can't speak on behalf of the government. Obviously, I'm not in the U.S. government anymore. My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone, whatever that means.
Elizondo very wisely directed the commentary away from just the testimony of 2 pilots to invite the media to look at all the hard data that is available, something that hopefully the media will begin to do. On mainstream media, however, Elizondo very clearly stated that he believes, based on the empirical data, that we may not be alone, which is a start. The media attention is more than normal. Jennifer Harper, writing for the Washington Times on December 20th, reported that there hasn't been such a fuss about UFOs since Hillary Clinton chatted about the subject on the 2016 presidential campaign trail, vowing she would get to the bottom of questions about unidentified flying objects, the presence of ETs on Earth, and Area 51. Her comments created an instant sensation in the news media, inspiring 350 stories from global news organizations and another 200 broadcast reports. This, according to the Paradigm Research Group, an activist organization that tracks otherworldly topics in politics and the media and demands the U.S. government disclose official information about UFOs. After the story from the New York Times, Harper notes that since then, there has been an avalanche of news coverage and social media hysteria about the revelations, from CNN's Short History of UFOs in America to Newsweek's Do Aliens Exist? Your tax dollars may hold the truth. Those are just 2 out of dozens of reports. Harper also noted some reactions of people. According to her, the UFO frenzy brought noteworthy reactions. In midweek, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders took a question on President Trump's reaction to the development, assuring reporters she would ask and circle back with an answer. John Podesta, a former advisor to Mrs. Clinton who has spoken out about UFOs in past years, tweeted, "Lift the veil," while former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, who supported funding the Pentagon UFO project, also had something to say. "This is about science and national security. If America doesn't take the lead in answering these questions, others will," he tweeted. Podesta's tweet gives me some concerns, but I will address those in a moment. Another outspoken supporter for the existence of life beyond Earth is Robert Bigelow of Bigelow Aerospace, that has provided inflatable modules to the International Space Station. The company is also a partner with NASA. In an interview with CBS's 60 Minutes from last May, here is a part of what Bigelow had to say.
Do you believe in aliens?
I'm absolutely convinced. That's all there is to it.
Do you also believe that UFOs have come to Earth?
There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence. And I spent millions and millions. I probably spent more as an individual than anybody else in the United States has ever spent on this subject.
Is it risky for you to say, in public that you believe in UFOs and aliens?
I don't care.
You don't worry that some people will say, did you hear that guy? He sounds like he's crazy.
I don't care.
Why not?
It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to change reality of what I know.
Do you imagine that in our space travels we will encounter other forms of intelligent life?
You don't have to go anywhere.
You can find it here?
Yeah.
Where exactly?
It's just like right under people's noses. Oh my gosh. Wow.
The FAA confirmed to us that for years it referred reports of UFOs and other unexplained phenomena to a company Bigelow owns. He told us he's had his own close encounters, but declined to go into detail. Robert Bigelow's quirky, and he knows it. But when you have as much money as he does, no one, not even NASA, seems to care.
An article appearing on the Discerning the Mystery website on December 20th, summarizing the media coverage, reports this. In modern times, the records of these beings has reportedly been hidden from the general population. At the same time, the benefit of the teachings and technology of these ancient visitors has been kept under lock and key, only to be used by a ruling elite who consider themselves superior to the rest of humanity, according to reports. It is our current establishment that has ensured that the public was unfamiliar with the reality of UFOs and of ETs and EBEs up to this point. So what we are seeing is a dishonest establishment that is gradually trying to clean up its own self-created mess, that being the secrecy and ignorance which would otherwise be of detriment to the evolving society and the galaxy, for that matter. Now this corporate media finds itself roughly 3 decades behind the rest of the UFO community, beginning to report on subjects as though there is no more information to report at this time. In this way, we in the truth community are getting a clear view of the undeniably fictitious nature of news media at the corporate level. As each of these reports comes forward, we are realizing that most of the conspiracies which the corporate media has dismissed and ignored, aside from the CIA disinformation programs that we've encountered, we are finding that the conspiracies were real and true to life. After years of doing CVN and seeing how people love to jump over any news story that happens to support their particular worldview in any moment, there has to be a word of caution in the face of all these stories the mainstream media are putting out now. When considering how much attention the media gives to a subject, one is always wise to at least consider the other stories that the media may be trying to distract people from paying attention to. I mentioned earlier that John Podesta tweeted, "Lift the veil." Considering that sources have been pointing to Podesta as being connected to at least the global cabal, if not pedophilia, his tweet may be an attempt to help bring this subject into the open so the public will stop paying attention to draining the swamp. We also have to consider Werner von Braun's warning years ago to Carol Rosin that when the global cabal runs out of cards to keep their control and enslavement of humanity, the final card they would play is the alien invasion card. We at least have to be mindful of the information coming out. Even though we are witnessing very positive things unfolding, we still have to consider that this once powerful cabal may still attempt to play this card. If humanity is prepared for it, then they will not have the power, and their last card will have no effect. We can also look forward to other possible disclosures. Stephen Bassett, as was reported by CVN last June, was in Russia to do interviews, and he has been suggesting that Russian President Putin may now become the disclosure president. According to Paul Seaburn in an article on the Mysterious Universe website from last June, Bassett discussed various considerations that might prompt Russian President Vladimir Putin to make the first formal acknowledgement by a head of state regarding an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. PRG believes this may be the first time anyone has made this argument on Russian media inside or outside Russia. As longtime listeners know, CVN has for several years, however, been speculating that Russia was giving an ultimatum for the disclosure of our galactic families by creating a logo for the World Cup next year that very clearly has images of disclosure put into it. Seaburn quotes Bassett as saying that what the keepers of the truth embargo either fail or refuse to realize is a post-disclosure world could be the bridge between the US, China, and Russia that would permit the necessary geopolitical realignments, setting a new course away from the seemingly permanent war economies, wasting vital resources and keeping the world always on the brink. Is it therefore any real surprise why Russia has been targeted so extensively by Western media during the last year? Russia and China are reshaping geoeconomics. Russia, along with its allies, are reshaping geopolitics, and they also appear to be forcing the world into disclosing the existence of our galactic families. As long as it leads to global peace, this could be the best present yet for humans that are yearning to be free of cabal, corporate, religious, and political enslavement, living in debt, fear, separation, and illness, on a planet that has been plundered and destroyed for profit, power, and control. That time is now at an end. Humans are declaring this to be so. In geopolitical news, there are several key events this past week that the world seems to be paying closer attention to, and these are the executive orders signed by Trump relating to global human rights abusers, the UN vote relating to the U.S.'s recognition of Jerusalem as the official capital of Israel, and also the tax reform legislation signed into law on December 22nd by President Trump, and another is arguably the FBI and the Department of Justice officials who are being subpoenaed to provide information relating to the Russian dossier against Trump and also the Uranium One deal that Hillary Clinton was involved in. Of major interest to many this past week is the executive order signed by Trump to go after those in Washington and the U.S. and arguably worldwide who are connected to pedophilia and other human rights abuses. From the official website of the U.S. Treasury, the press release stated that today the Trump administration launched a new sanctions regime targeting human rights abusers and corrupt actors around the world. Building on the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act passed by Congress last year, President Trump signed an executive order today declaring a national emergency with respect to serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world and providing for the imposition of sanctions on actors engaged in these malign activities. The press release gave names of individuals that most people may not recognize, but perhaps were specifically chosen because they are connected to individuals that the executive order is really targeting. In the executive order itself, Trump stated that human rights abuse and corruption undermine the values that form an essential foundation of stable, secure, and functioning societies, have devastating impacts on individuals, weaken democratic institutions, degrade the rule of law, perpetuate violent conflicts, facilitate the activities of dangerous persons, and undermine economic markets. The United States seeks to impose tangible and significant consequences on those who commit serious human rights abuse or engage in corruption, as well as to protect the financial system of the United States from abuse by these same persons. I therefore determine that serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States, and I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. Links to both official documents will be in the show summary for those choosing to read them. Reading between the lines, one could argue that this executive order is an official declaration of war against the corrupted cabal elitists worldwide. At the United Nations, where a vote was held to condemn the U.S. for declaring Jerusalem as the capital of Israel on December 21st, the world seemed to be standing together against the U.S. An article on the Jerusalem Post website on December 22nd reports that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's foreign policy doctrine is based on a simple idea. Israel's position in international organizations will improve as its bilateral relations with individual countries gets better. Netanyahu was also quoted as saying just before the vote on December 21st that attitudes toward Israel by many countries in the world on all continents are changing outside the walls of the UN, and in the end, this will trickle down inside the walls of the UN building, the House of Lies. It seems, however, that Israel and the US have been dealt a blow. The article reports that Netanyahu, after the vote, said that he appreciates the fact that a growing number of countries refused to participate in this theater of the absurd. But when comparing this vote to the 2012 vote that granted the Palestinians non-member observer status in the UN, and the 2015 vote that gave them the right to fly their flag at the world body, there has not been that significant a change inside the 193-member organization. For instance, this time, 128 countries voted against Israel, compared to 138 in 2012 and 119 in 2015. This time, 38 countries abstained, while 41 abstained in 2012 and 45 abstained in 2015. In addition, both Australia and Canada, which voted against the flag initiative in 2015, abstained this time. On the statehood issue in 2012, Canada voted against and Australia abstained. I mention Canada specifically because Canada is believed to be pursuing a seat on the UN Security Council for the next term, and thus their abstention from this vote was perhaps as much to protect their chances at getting a seat as it was to support Israel or condemn the U.S. It is unclear exactly how this vote will impact the geopolitical strategy that Trump seems to be playing. If I was a betting man, I would be willing to lay money on the fact that U.S. President Trump set it up this way, knowing what the result would be. Trump has played some interesting cards during the last few months, and although I could be wrong, he seems to be deliberately making choices that upset people in order to see how they react and determine where they sit in terms of the geopolitical structure. What is not so clear yet is whether U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley is acting on the orders of Trump or on the orders of Zionist handlers. Trump seems to be deliberately doing acts that upset a number of people. Upon deeper reflection, one may be wise to ask why he would do this, especially considering all the other things that he is doing, such as the executive order you just heard about. The fact is, we do not fully understand the choices being made and why they are being made. In time, this may be revealed to us. On December 22nd, Trump also fulfilled another campaign promise to pass into law an extensive tax reform package. Without spending too much time on this story because we do not fully yet understand what is going on in the background, the tax bill has been promoted as the biggest tax cut in history. Some sources are claiming the tax bill includes certain other specific information that will impact the global economy, although this remains to be seen. Considering how unpopular Trump was among both Democrats and Republicans alike, one may be inclined to wonder exactly how he was able to pull off a victory like this, especially if he is also simultaneously draining the swamp. The question, or the answer to this question, may lie in the fact that we are beginning to witness a number of congressional representatives and senators who are considering retirement or who are facing sexual harassment allegations. Trump may be holding some cards on numerous politicians that are forcing them to change their tune in order to save themselves. This, however, is only speculation at this point. A video put out by Roy Potter, called The Potter Expositor, elaborates on a few things that Trump did that may have signaled further defeat of George Soros. In the video, he describes how conquerors would sometimes take over the colors of those they have defeated. The global cabal has stolen the color purple and used it for their agenda, notes Potter, and Potter is claiming that Trump is reclaiming the purple, as was allegedly witnessed during his address when he wore a purple tie and he was drinking water with two hands, which is symbolically swallowing Soros and the cabal. The link is in the show transcript for those wishing to review it and discern for themselves. The noose is tightening around Hillary Clinton and also some within the Washington Beltway. Zero Hedge reported on December 17th that House Judiciary Committee member Jim Jordan says he's gotten a commitment from Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte to issue subpoenas for several key officials at the FBI and Justice Department implicated in disturbing revelations of political bias against President Trump. House and Senate committees have turned their focus in recent weeks to Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, counterintelligence investigator Peter Strzok, FBI Attorney Lisa Page, and former Associate Deputy Attorney General Bruce Orr and his wife Nellie, who worked for Fusion GPS, the firm behind the Trump-Russia dossier and several other concurrent campaigns to smear Donald Trump in an effort funded in large part by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Convention. The article adds that GOP lawmakers have honed in on highly troublesome revelations over the last several weeks, which paint a clear picture of a highly politicized FBI actively assisting Hillary Clinton as candidate for president while using an unproven dossier which relied on the cooperation of Kremlin officials to smear then-candidate Donald Trump. For those who have been having trouble following the timeline of events related to this story, the article does contain dates of key facts between 26 and 2017 and will appear in the show transcript for review. A second Zero Hedge article on December 20th shares this information. Former FBI Assistant Director James Kallstrom spoke to FBN's Stuart Varney to discuss recent bombshells concerning the FBI, whose top brass has been conducting a highly politicized witch hunt of President Trump on behalf of the anti-Trump establishment, while protecting then-candidate Hillary Clinton from criminal charges relating to her email investigation, Clinton Foundation involvement in pay-for-play schemes, including a farcical probe of the Uranium One scandal. Former FBI Assistant Director Kallstrom recently appeared on Fox Business News program Varney and Company. Kallstrom supported the argument that there was an active FBI agenda to undermine Trump and support Clinton. But in the last few seconds of the interview, he was asked this.
James, I want to ask this question. You got 20 seconds. What's morale like in the FBI now?
It's not good, but I think recent events that I'm aware of are going to improve that because there's going to be actually something is going to happen, in my view.
Oh, are you going to leave us on that? James, you've got to come back.
Yes. Well, I think there's a lot of patriots that have just had it up to here with what's going on, and they're going to step forward and tell people what the shenanigans have been, how they shut down the Clinton Foundation investigation, how other things were done that are so anti what the FBI and the United States and this country is about.
So Kallstrom drops a deliberate statement that he knows of something coming soon that is going to happen within the FBI, and that there are patriots that are either ready or are preparing to reclaim their agency, and perhaps even the country as well. The general public is being prepared for some significant house cleaning that will take place in Washington with ripple effects that will move out around the world. For most of us, this is about time. In financial news, as we come to the end of 2017, we may look back on this year as the year in which capitalism was exposed and a new financial paradigm was started. The new young female Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, was recently interviewed, and when asked about whether capitalism has been successful, she was quoted as saying that if you have hundreds of thousands of children living in homes without enough to survive, that's a blatant failure. What else could you describe it as? We are also seeing the end of the US dollar as a global reserve currency, and we are also witnessing the dying days of US and Western hegemony over this planet. We are seeing steps being taken by different countries to reaffirm their sovereignty on the global stage, both politically and economically. In South Africa, the Herald reported on December 17th that the ANC has instructed the government to begin the process of nationalizing the South African Reserve Bank. The final decision on the matter was taken at the National Conference of the governing party on Wednesday, which would see government owning 100% of the bank's shares, instead of the current arrangement where these are held by a number of private shareholders. The party has now mandated the government to develop a proposal to ensure full public ownership in a way that does not benefit private shareholder speculators. Conference delegates repeated a view held at the policy conference that it was a historic anomaly that there were private shareholders of the Reserve Bank. Most listeners will understand what was just said. The private shareholders being referred to are no doubt those associated with the Rothschilds' central banking cartel. The fact that a relatively small nation such as South Africa is doing this suggests that the leadership of the country has received solid assurances, likely from both Russia and China, that their interests will be protected. As a member of the original BRICS alliance of countries, South Africa was probably told to take this step if their economy could be integrated into the new paradigm, which is now believed to be gold-backed, or at least resources-backed, with regard to currencies. According to an article from the Event Chronicle website from last January, there are, or maybe there were, 3 countries left in the world without a Rothschild-controlled central bank. In the show transcript, links will appear with some more information about the 13 families that are believed to be behind the shadow forces governing the now former New World Order, as well as a link to a video that explains the Rothschild conspiracy in 4 minutes. As more countries continue to align with the economic paradigm of the East, focused on the Belt and Road Initiative, gold or resources-backed currencies, and trading local currencies instead of the US dollar, it is very likely that the central banking regime that has enslaved humanity will continue to lose more and more countries, which, again, would be a great gift for humanity at this time. Also being reported by RT on December 18th is the growing nightmare for the petrodollar as China prepares to launch their yuan-denominated crude futures contracts. The hits just keep on coming to the US dollar. On December 21st, Zero Hedge reported that Pakistan is considering replacing the US dollar with the Chinese yuan for bilateral trade between Pakistan and China. Pakistan's Minister for Planning and Development, Ahsan Iqbal, said, according to Dawn Online and The Economic Times. Interior Minister Iqbal, who has been central to the planning and implementation of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, was reported discussing the proposal after unveiling a long-term economic development cooperation plan for the 2 countries, Reuters added. Iqbal spoke to journalists after the formal launch of the long-term plan for the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC, signed by the 2 sides on November 21st. The article continues, Asked if the Chinese currency could be allowed for use in Pakistan, the minister said the Pakistani currency would be used within the country, but China desired that bilateral trade should take place in yuan instead of dollars, in yet another push to de-dollarize what China considers its sphere of influence. We are examining the use of yuan instead of the US dollar for trade between the two countries, Iqbal said, adding that the use of the yuan was not against the interest of Pakistan. Rather, it would benefit Pakistan. It would also show that the world that when it comes to Asia, the superpower of significance is no longer the US. And so, as China's influence grows, the long-term plan highlighted key cooperation areas between the neighboring states, including road and rail connections, information network infrastructure, energy, trade and industrial parks, agriculture, poverty alleviation, and tourism. The two nations also agreed to establish and improve cross-border credit system and financial services, strengthen currency swap arrangements, as well as establish a bilateral payment and settlement system. In yuan, that is, not dollars. The Belt and Road Initiative is moving along at an extremely rapid pace, despite receiving almost zero coverage in the Western media. Rail transportation links are popping up all across the Eurasian region, and new transportation projects are starting between China and other countries. Announcements have been made throughout the year, and some of them have been reported on CVN. In July, for example, East China was connected to Kazakhstan via railway, offering freight service between the two countries. In November, the Xinhua News Service reported a new cargo freight rail service has been launched between Finland and China. The article shows a train about to leave Finland for China at the inauguration ceremony. The article writes that it will take 17 days to run 9,000 kilometers to cross the Eurasia continent, passing through countries including Russia and Kazakhstan, before reaching its final destination of the northwest China's Xi'an, one of the oldest cities in China. On December 21st, China and Thailand inaugurated the construction of a high-speed rail system in Thailand. The service will operate between the capital city of Bangkok and the northeastern province of Nakhon Ratchasima. A day later, on December 22nd, Xinhua reported that the China proposed Belt and Road Initiative looks to gain traction in France, politicians and experts have said. When the French Institute for International and Strategic Affairs opened online accreditations for the first edition of the Paris Forum on the initiative in November, there were so many requests that the IRIS had to close registrations earlier than expected. So why is this initiative interesting more and more French people? This initiative is an opportunity to work very concretely on projects of common interest, former French Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin told Xinhua. Unless one is willing to look at global events from multiple perspectives, it is going to be impossible for one to come to any clear and true understanding of the geopolitical and geoeconomic reality that we are now living in. The paradigm is shifting, and arguably has already shifted, and the world is going to wake up to this new reality, and they may never even have realized that such a shift was possible, and they will likely wonder how they could have missed it. They missed it because they did not take the time to see a different perspective, and they especially did not take the time to ask all the relevant questions that people really need to start asking to connect the dots of global events happening right in front of their eyes at this time. In some other disclosure-related news for this week, another mainstream media article related to disclosure during the month of December comes from Reuters news agency. On December 7th, they reported that nearly half of humans believe in alien life and want to make contact. A survey in 24 countries has found in what researchers said helps to explain the lasting popularity of the Star Wars franchise 40 years after the first movie was screened. On the eve of the release of The Last Jedi, researchers published findings that 47% of more than 26,000 respondents believe in the existence of intelligent alien civilizations in the universe. The first ever global survey on the subject of extraterrestrials was conducted by Glocalities.com. According to the website, early this year, NASA announced the discovery of 7 Earth-sized worlds orbiting a star in the constellation of Aquarius. These worlds are possibly warm enough for water, therefore sustaining life. Now, the worldwide Glocalities survey reveals that the majority of people around the world believe in the existence of life on other planets. The values-based research revealed as well that the search for extraterrestrial life fascinates billions of people. The website also states that the Glocalities study on the existence of alien life was completed among 26,492 people from 24 countries and reveals the following. 61% of people believe that there is some form of life on other planets. 17% rule this out, and only 22% say they don't know. 47% of people believe in the existence of intelligent alien civilizations in the universe. 26% rule this out, and 28% say that they don't know. 25% believe that the first form of life on Earth arrived here from another place in the universe. 39% do not believe this, and 36% say they don't know. Of the 47% people who believe that advanced alien civilizations exist, 60% of those say that humans should try to get in contact with these civilizations. 21% say that we should not try and seek contact, and 19% say that they don't know. Martine Lampert, the research director of Glocalities, was quoted as saying that people who believe in the existence of intelligent alien civilizations are not a marginal minority, but constitute a large, 47%, and distinct segment of unconventional and anti-authoritarian thinkers with a passion for science, technology, culture, politics, and the arts. Based on their fascination for science, arts, and life in the universe, we characterize them with the term Homo Universalis. The recent discovery of exoplanets is likely to fuel the interest of people in learning about the mysteries of the universe and possible life forms on other planets. If and when the discovery of life on other planets is confirmed by the scientific community in the coming years, it is likely that this group will become more and more engaged in the debate about the future of humanity and the place of planet Earth in the universe. A link to download the full survey will appear in the show transcript for those who are interested. Another website, etletstalk.com, published some of the results of the survey. One of the really interesting results of the survey is the country breakdown. Given what we have been learning about Russia over the last few years, how they are being demonized currently, and the disclosure-related logo for the World Cup, one may not be surprised to learn that Russia leads the world in the belief in the existence of an intelligent alien civilizations in the universe. 68% of the population holds this belief. Mexico and China follow with 61% and 60% holding this belief. Romania, Japan, India, and Canada are in the 50% range. Poland, Sweden, South Korea, Austria, Spain, the US, Germany, Australia, the UK, and Brazil are in the 40% range. The result is very positive, affirming an ever-increasing belief that the people of the world are ready for interaction with positive members of our galactic families. This result also supports both the argument for positive disclosure, but it also could support the desire by the global cabal to play their alien invasion card, to try to scare humanity back into fear and control. With awareness and focused intention, however, as mentioned at the beginning of the newscast, this cannot and will not happen. The people of the world, and the shifting human and planetary consciousness, will not allow it. Over to some technology-related news now. Artificial intelligence, or AI, as it is also known, is one of those technologies that has both great potential to do good and also harm. At this time, it is unclear whether or not this technology is being controlled by honorable humans, well-intentioned but misguided humans, or by humans seeking to trick humanity further into enslavement. In this story, there may appear to be something good from AI. An article appearing on the Sputnik News website from December 15th reports that NASA's Kepler Space Observatory has discovered a previously unnoticed small planet in the Kepler-90 system with the help of AI. Professor Suzanne Eigrain, an astrophysicist at Oxford University, told Radio Sputnik it was the first time that an unsupervised machine learning method was used to locate planets. Eigrain was quoted as saying that the artificial intelligence method that was used this time is slightly different from what's been used and tried before. People have been applying machine learning methods to exoplanet searches in general and to the Kepler data in particular. The type of method that was used this time is very much the unsupervised machine learning method. You just train it with a data set where you've already labeled which data sets contain planets and which do not, but you don't tell it how to do the search. It figures it out. This would give a very strong hint that AI intelligence has been in existence for many years, but it has only been within the last year, perhaps, maybe two, where AI is being discussed more broadly in the public sphere. This method would further prove how advanced AI technology has become before it was ever released to the public knowledge. The fact that it can learn represents the potential for it to also choose to be good or not good. This news follows closely on the announcement of the discovery of a cigar-shaped celestial entity that has some speculating may be connected to intelligent life, while others speculate it may be connected to a secret space program already in place around Earth. Last week, CVN reported on a technology called Cicada. The company was claiming to have built a new internet. I reported last week the following. Cicada takes advantage of the evolving blockchain technology, writing the following. The Cicada project ends long-standing weaknesses of distributed application platforms, solves the 51% problem, ends proof of work energy waste, ends the ASIC or ASIC race, ends the centralization of mining, and it ends the debate over the 2 megabyte or versus 8 megabyte blocks. The website continues, the foundation of the system is a pluggable, decentralized, people-controlled universal ID called the HUID, or Human Unique Identifier, that is unique to every person on the planet. This week, Russia has announced plans to develop its own internet. According to an article on the exposinggovernment.com website, on November 28th, Russian President Putin has announced that Russia is launching a new independent internet that will be free of the shackles of the New World Order. Putin and the Security Council are developing the new internet initially for BRICS nations, which will be totally independent of global elite corporations and governments, and will continue to work in the event of global internet outages. The new initiative was brought forward at the October meeting of the Security Council, with Putin setting a deadline of August 1st, 2018. It is believed the new independent internet will be free from censorship, with the likes of Google and Facebook barred from monopolizing key functions, such as search results and social media communications. The article continues. RT.com reports, while discussing the issue, members of the Council noted that the increased capabilities of Western nations to conduct offensive operations in the informational space, as well as the increased readiness to exercise these capabilities, pose a serious threat to Russia's security. They decided that the problem should be addressed by creating a separate backup system of domain name servers, or DNS, which would not be subject to control by international organizations. This system would be used by countries of the BRICS bloc: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It would seem that perhaps Russia is picking up where Brazil left off. Former Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff had begun work on a different internet network after revelations showed the U.S. was spying on Brazil's oil company and on the president herself. Plans were very likely scrapped after Rousseff was removed in an unlawful coup shortly before the Summer Olympics in that country 2 years ago. Finally, in health-related news, as many are beginning to make their menu plans for the holiday season, different kinds of bread are almost always a part of a holiday meal. Not all breads are the same, and in fact, many breads are not healthy at all, and some are even toxic. About a year or two ago, CVN did a story on the dangers of today's wheat. It is perhaps worth revisiting this subject just ahead of the holiday season. An article by Chris Gunnars, appearing on the Healthline.com website from 2014, shares the following. Wheat is a highly controversial food these days. It's an old food, and most diet-related diseases are relatively new. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to blame old wheat for these new health problems. Wheat today is completely different from the wheat we ate back in the day. First of all, it is processed differently. New techniques in grain processing in the late 19th century made it possible to create massive amounts of refined wheat for a low cost. We are now able to separate the nutritious components of the grain, the bran and the germ, away from the endosperm, where most of the starchy carbs are contained. This led to an obvious reduction in nutrient density and gave refined wheat the ability to spike blood sugar very fast. In the past, the processes of preparing wheat bread included the sprouting and fermenting of the grains, which had more healthful effects. The article notes that these processes increase the amino acid lysine, and it reduces anti-nutrients like phytic acid and lectins. It disables enzyme inhibitors and makes nutrients more accessible. However, it's important to realize that wheat today is not the same as it was 1,000, 100, or even 60 years ago. Today's breads contain bleached flour with yeast that rises quickly instead of slowly, and the grains are not soaked, sprouted, or fermented. From the article, several conclusions are offered. Wheat is processed and prepared differently these days, which makes it less nutritious and more harmful than traditionally prepared wheat. Modern wheat was introduced around the year 1960. It was developed via crossbreeding and crude genetic manipulation, which changed the nutrient and protein composition of the plant. Modern wheat is less nutritious than old wheat. The amount of minerals like zinc, copper, iron, and magnesium has decreased by 19 to 28%. Modern wheat contains more of the problematic glutens and there are some studies showing that older wheat varieties don't cause a reaction in celiac patients. Relative to older wheat varieties, modern wheat has adverse effects on cholesterol, blood mineral content, and inflammatory markers, potentially contributing to disease. In closing, the article notes the following about trying to find a healthy wheat bread. If you can get your hands on a whole grain bread made with einkorn or some of the older varieties of wheat, then perhaps it can be a part of a healthy diet. Another way is to make it yourself. You can dig around and find someone who sells whole wheat grains of the old bread, and then you can grind and ferment the wheat and bake your own healthy bread. Or you could just save yourself the trouble and skip the wheat altogether. There's no nutrient in it that you can't get in greater amounts from other foods. In another article appearing on the Healthy Home Economist website from August of 2017, the author notes that there is another practice that has been incorporated into the wheat farming that is killing us. The article writes that the good news is that the reason wheat has become so toxic in the United States is not because it is secretly genetically modified. The bad news is that the problem lies with the manner in which wheat is grown and harvested by conventional wheat farmers. Common wheat harvest protocol in the United States is to drench the wheat fields with Roundup, made by Monsanto several days before the combine harvesters work through the fields, as the practice allows for an earlier, easier, and bigger harvest. Pre-harvest application of the herbicide Roundup or other herbicides containing the deadly active ingredient glyphosate to wheat and barley as a desiccant was suggested as early as 1980. It has since become routine over the past 15 years and used as a drying agent 7 to 10 days before harvest within the conventional farming community. The article continues. This practice is not just widespread in the United States either. The Food Standards Agency in the United Kingdom reports that the use of Roundup as a wheat desiccant results in glyphosate residues regularly showing up in bread samples. Other European countries are waking up to the danger, however. In the Netherlands, use of Roundup is completely banned, with France likely soon to follow. Another article from 2012 by Mac Sisson supports this information and will also be included in the show transcript for additional reading and learning. Actress Zooey Deschanel and Jacob Peshenik have teamed up in a consumer awareness campaign called thefarmproject.com. According to the website, at no point in our history have we known less about the food we eat. Industrialized processes have shifted production out of sight and out of mind. The Farm Project will bring people to farms in their community, and we will bring farms to the people. We will close the gap between us and how our food is grown. A series of videos to help educate people are posted on the project's Facebook page, including a video entitled Episode 2, What's in Your Bread, where Deschanel looks at the bread we are eating today. In a loosely related story, in Canada, major food retailer Loblaws has been caught in cheating Canadians over 14 years due to price rigging for bread. The company is offering a $25 gift certificate to people, claiming it as compensation. A social media campaign has begun with people suggesting that the coupon be given to local food drives. Knowing what I now know about the dangers of bread, I'm beginning to wonder if this is really a good gift at all. I understand that many are well-intentioned and they do not know the information contained in this story. This is one of those situations where it is hard to discern between the goodwill of others and their uninformed choice to do something that is causing potential harm to others. Bread tastes good, but only if it is real bread. Adapting one's lifestyle to include a diet that has less harmful wheat, or perhaps even a diet that does not include wheat at all, may contribute to eliminating some of the health conditions being experienced by adults and children worldwide. As many have no doubt noticed, celebrating the holiday season is taking on significantly different meanings to different people. Many are starting to see through the illusions of consumerism and materialism, and they are starting to look for ways to break away from these illusions. However, this can be very difficult, especially when surrounded by family members who are still caught up in the illusions, and put pressures on those who do not want to participate by playing their control dramas on those who are awakening, in the hopes that the awakened souls will cave in and play the consumer and material game, and buy things they don't really want to buy, to give them to people they may not really want to give something to fulfill an expectation that one may not really even care about. For those who are able to successfully detach from what the holiday season has become, they may actually find the true peace and joy of the season. For those who are unable, the joy only turns to stress and often to disagreements and conflicts as people judge others on failed expectations or whatever else. Many awakened souls are feeling extremely tired within this illusion. An article appearing on the awarenessact.com website offers a pretty good summary of what many are no doubt feeling. According to the article, our souls need a purpose, and when we ignore our purpose, only to do nothing with ourselves, things can become a bit tricky. You see, when we are not enriching our soul, we are letting it waste away. Our souls can become tired, just like any other aspect of our being. Here are 14 signs of a tired soul. Number 1, you feel numb. You do not feel like yourself anymore. Rather than happiness, you feel a sense of numbness. Nothing brings you joy. Number 2, you feel out of place. You do not feel like you are where you are supposed to be. You feel out of place and all around odd. Nothing is making sense to you. Number 3, you do not feel loved. While some may love you, you can't feel it. You are distancing yourself from those in your life for an unknown reason. Something has got to give. 4, you are more anxious than usual. Your nerves are making you pretty tense. Your anxiety is through the roof and you cannot calm it. This is a big sign. Number 5, you experience mind fog. You are feeling very out of it. Your mind has become quite foggy. Everything is just not as it has been or should be. Number 6, you do not want to help anyone. You just don't feel like anyone deserves your help. You are far too down and out to be bothered by others, and yet you continue to help. This only makes you bitter. Number 7, you experience physical fatigue. You are feeling quite fatigued. Your body is also becoming tired. If your soul is tired, your body will follow quickly. Number 8, you keep making excuses. You keep telling yourself everything will be fine and come up with dumb reasons as to why things are how they are. Making excuses will not help. You have to face things and make changes. Number 9, you fear the future more now than ever. You are afraid of where you are going and who you are going to become. You know this does not correspond to your purpose, but keep making excuses as to why you will not change. This is a dangerous path to go down. Number 10, you keep putting yourself down. You do not know how to be kind to yourself. You keep talking down to yourself and making things worse. Showing ourselves kindness is crucial. Number 11, you let others use you as a doormat. Other people will use you as a doormat for as long as you let them. You have to learn to stand up for yourself. You are your own person. Number 12, you keep dwelling on the past. You are stuck on things that you cannot change. This is not healthy. You have got to learn to be true to who you are and forget the things that are no longer serving a purpose in your life. Number 13, you are struggling to find the word no. Saying no is not as hard as people make it out to be. The more you agree to, the worse things will become. Say no when you need to. Agreeing to do things you do not want to do is only going to bring you down more. And finally, number 14, you have been more distant lately. You are distant even from yourself. You may find yourself sleeping more often than not, and this is a big red flag. Be there for yourself, especially in times like this. Of course, this is always easier said than done. Meditation is a tool, but also for others, perhaps working with the violet flame may be something to consider. Coming up shortly, we'll look at how you may be able to do this. In this week's Final Words, a dear friend of mine is a shamanic practitioner and also who has been doing extensive work with the violet flame, especially over the last month. This friend described to me how her dream life has simply exploded in a positive direction. She shared with me how it was revealed to her that the earth is expanding, and she was able to see brilliant light pouring through the gaps in her surface templates. Although this is no excuse to continue polluting our planet, it was a comfort to her that the earth is breathing toxins and pollutants into her core as a means of self-cleansing. She highly recommends doing work with the violet flame for those who feel called to do so. Patricia Cota-Robles, in one of her earlier video logs, or vlogs, describes working with the violet flame, and in this week before the Western holiday season, and 2 weeks before the Orthodox Eastern holiday season, perhaps this is a good time to focus on working with the violet flame instead of allowing oneself to be consumed with the commercial materialism or even the religious symbolism of what this holiday season has become. For listeners in Western countries, may you enjoy your holiday season in ways which you choose to observe them. I leave you with Patricia Cota-Robles sharing her message on how to work with the violet flame. This message is shared with permission from Patricia. In the show transcript, there will be links to 1 or 2 other video logs from Robles that are related to this work and may also be of value to listeners. Create a loving and peace-anchoring holiday season until our next moment of now.
Last week, we learned how very powerful our invocations can be when they are done the right way. This week, the beings of light are going to join us in an activity of light that will demonstrate how our invocations can transmute into light the tons of negativity that is being pushed to the surface all over the world. Please join with me now, and I will guide you through a powerful invocation that has been given to us by the Company of Heaven. Take a deep breath and center yourself within the divinity of your heart flame. Please follow my words with the full power of your attention. And we begin. I am my I am presence, and I am one with the I am presence of all humanity. As one voice, one breath, one heartbeat, and one energy, vibration, and consciousness of pure divine love, we invoke the most intensified frequencies of the fifth dimensional crystalline solar violet flame of God's infinite perfection that cosmic law will allow. We invoke the legions of light and the violet fire archangels who are associated with this unfathomable frequency of the violet flame. Beloved ones, come forth now. We ask that you blaze this violet flame with the power and might of 1,000 suns in, through, and around all lower human consciousness and all of the human miscreations that are surfacing at this time. Transmute this negative energy, cause, core, effect, record, and memory back into its original perfection, and seal it in an invincible force field of God's transfiguring divine love. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through the thoughts, words, actions, and feelings of every man, woman, and child evolving on earth, until every person individually acknowledges and accepts the divinity within all life, and every expression made by humanity is a healing benediction for every part of life on this planet. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through all incoming babies, the children, their parents and guardians, until all of the youth are raised up in energy, vibration, and consciousness to hear and carry out the directives of their I Am presence. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through all youth centers and activities, all schools, colleges, and universities, all leaders, teachers, instructors, and professors in every line of endeavor, until the flame of wisdom, God illumination, and enlightenment manifests and is eternally sustained within the heart and mind of every person. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through all religions and all spiritual teachings until divine love, truth, tolerance, respect, oneness, and universal sisterhood and brotherhood are a manifest reality. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through all doctors, nurses, healers, hospitals, insurance companies, pharmaceutical conglomerates, and every institution associated with healing of any kind, until divine mercy, compassion, caring, and healing are tangible realities for every person. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through all banking and financial institutions, all economic systems, all money and the people associated with monetary interactions of every kind, until every person on earth is openly demonstrating true integrity, honesty, generosity, fairness, abundance, and the God supply of all good things. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through all places of incarceration and all employed there, through every correctional institution, and through every law enforcement officer, lawyer, judge, jury, and court of law, until divine justice is manifest and eternally sustained. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through all of the governments of the world, and through every person, place, condition, and thing associated with the governments of the world at national, state, and local levels. Intensify this violet flame until every government is focusing on divine love, oneness, reverence for all life, and the desire to co-create the highest good for all concerned in every single instance. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through all space activities throughout the world until every nation unites in cooperative service so that God's will may be manifest with our sisters and brothers throughout the universe. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through the physical, etheric, mental, and emotional bodies of humanity until all disease and human miscreation, its cause and core, is dissolved and transmuted into purity, vibrant health, eternal youth, and physical perfection. Blaze the light of 1,000 suns through the food and water industries and through all of the food and water used for human consumption until every particle of food and every molecule of water is filled with light. Empower this elemental substance to raise the vibratory action of humanity's physical, etheric, mental, and emotional bodies until physical perfection becomes a sustained, manifest reality for every human being. Now, blaze the light of 1,000 suns in, through, and around every remaining precious particle of life until the immaculate concept of the new earth is permanently manifest. We accept that the activity of the violet flame of God's infinite perfection, which we have invoked this sacred and holy day, is being God victoriously accomplished right here and right now, even as we call. We also accept and know that through every person's I am presence, the violet flame of God's infinite perfection is increasing daily and hourly, moment by moment, with every breath we take, which will continue until this sweet earth and all her life have completed our ascension into the fifth dimensional realms of light on the new earth. And so it is. Beloved, I am. Beloved, I am. Beloved, I am. Precious heart, if you would like more assistance on how to use the violet flame and how it can help you transform your life, I have written a book and produced a set of 2 CDs titled The Violet Flame. They are available on our website, eraofpeace.org. These items include important information and very powerful tools that have been given to humanity by the Company of Heaven. In addition to the physical book and CDs, both items are available electronically in an e-book and MP3s.
So that is a sample of the unfolding higher consciousness news around the world this week. Cosmic Vision News is broadcast weekly, and a transcript of this broadcast with all supporting links are published in the show summary on the CosmicVisionNews.com website. CVN can be followed on numerous social websites, including Minds, Unseen, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm Jeffrey West, reminding you that to find peace, sometimes one has to be willing to lose one's connection with the people, places, and things that create all the noise in one's life. Until our next moment of now, may you be guided and protected in your service to humanity and our planet. Namaste.